Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and berries, welcome to Synergy Cafe, another day and another full spectrum Friday with my friend John Armstrong. And he's in the green room right now, but I wanted to share a little bit about you. I mean, he just shared with me an interesting element of what he's pulling together here with his adventure quests and things. So he's got a trip that's coming up. It's actually going to be happening in January of 2025, and I'll put a little thing on the screen right here. It's right there. It's a trip to Portugal, and it's an interesting way he's doing this, in that it's sort of a moving vacation where you're journeying, you're going through and experiencing all this stuff in a group. So let me go get John, and we're going to talk a little bit today. The topic is going to be about guidance. One stick. Let's find John. There he is.
Hey, Brad.
Greetings.
Good to see you again.
How are you feeling?
I'm doing great today. Yeah, happy
Yay.
Friday. Doing great.
It is.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was telling you that I had little keyboard issues, and it's amazing when you just got, like, I think there were 6 characters on my keyboard that weren't working.
Mm.
It makes a big difference. You don't realize how often you use certain characters. So what I ended up doing is getting my wireless keyboard, and I just lay that over the top of my laptop.
Uh-huh.
So that's technological struggles. I try and keep things as simple as possible. Keep it easy. Don't get too techy. Anyways,
Yeah.
let's get into it. Our topic today is guidance. And I kind of get that. What I visualize when I think about guidance, I think about sails on a sailboat, like
Hmm.
a guidance system. You're trying to direct people certain ways. Is that what we're talking about when we talk about the hero's journey and all that?
Yeah, I'm loving the segue that you've offered me here about the keyboard. So guidance, when I think about guidance, usually I break it into 3 different areas. We have, when we're dealing with let me back up a little bit. Our first week we talked about the call to adventure. Last week we talked about the resistance. And then this week we're talking about guidance, which is guidance out of the resistance and into action. What we'll talk about next week is the threshold of no return. But today we're talking about guidance, and I see that unfolding in 3 areas when we talk about the hero's journey, which is our blueprint for the coaching journey on this adventure quest. The guidance can come from outside ourselves, a teacher, um, a mentor, um, a colleague, a friend, family friend that shows up, somebody who may have a different perception on a situation that we're in that we can't see. It also could be guidance that's inside ourselves that can show up that we weren't accessing before. So an inner guide in ourselves could show up. And then the outer one is, something can surprise us, like our keyboard might stop working. And this could be a teacher of sorts. Now, it's not the fun one, but we can't always control if the teacher's going to give us a task or not. But so sometimes an innate object or a situation can be a guide for us. Because just because a teacher shows up inside ourselves, outside ourselves, doesn't mean we always like them. Doesn't mean it's always fun. Yeah.
Well, interesting how that happened, because I was working with our mutual friend Casey Peak, and
Yep.
we
Great
both
guy.
we had to do some shifting as far as the scheduling for our Monday show, because they have some evening stuff that's going on there, so we had to move it. But when the keyboard went out, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is an opportunity to quit doing this. Maybe this is a sign to quit doing it. And then I started thinking, how am I going to get my keyboard to work? And I got my Bluetooth Wi-Fi keyboard. So it made my brain start thinking about, hey, maybe we could reformat this show, because Casey's got a big monitor, and use that as the computer, and connect that with the computer so I can see the monitor. And then we can sit farther away, because this is mobile. I can move this somewhere else. And I have the ability now to be in a different space. And it gave me a whole new idea for our show, where it's almost like a talk show, where we've got a guest that comes on online, and Casey and I are in the same studio. So sometimes when things are bad, they're actually good.
So so you're taking a lesson, you're taking a teaching from that moment,
Yeah.
and moving forward. You're not getting shut down or stuck. And so I think there's guidance in that is where we organize around that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got someone else that can kind of give you. If a person gets stuck and they think, okay, I'm going this direction, maybe I shouldn't be going that direction. Someone like yourself that's seeing it from a different point of view or perspective can say, hey, look out, there's a bear around that corner. Don't go around that corner because you can see it and I can't. Right? It's interesting. You know, the airplanes have a guidance system, and it's kind of important to be able to get to the airport, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got a young niece, actually one of the second oldest of our nieces, who's doing some entrepreneurial ventures right now. And my brother was talking to me yesterday about guiding her. And as he's thinking about this, and he's like, I don't want her to, bad things to happen, and I don't want her to lose money or waste time. And he was trying to figure out much to get involved. And I reminded him of just something I was reading Tony Robbins' LinkedIn, his newsletter this week that came out. It's just a simple LinkedIn newsletter from Tony Robbins, this one, and it was the top 5 leadership qualities that he was writing about or their team's writing about. And one of them was failure. In the top 5, being open and engaging with failure, because failure can be one of the most significant teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So guiding us into, well, what could be learned here from that? Now, I don't want to put all our focus on technological mishaps as our guidance is, but include it. So it's not just put off into the outside, the external sage that shows up, the teacher, which is, I think, what we typically think of. That's where guidance comes from, somewhere outside ourselves. But yeah.
Well, it's kind of like guide rails on the freeway.
Ooh.
Use that analogy. It kind of keeps you in the guide. The visualization that came to me is like, those little race cars, the little electric race cars when we were kids. The little, what is it, like 132 scale was the bigger one.
Yes.
Small, teeny ones. They always had that little pin that went in that little guide, and it gave them a place to go, and they could spin around the corners and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting way of looking at guidance too. And when you have those little glitches in the road, the little speed bumps and stuff, you can't look at them as failures. They're educational opportunities. And you can kind of like Tony Robbins always uses that trajectory thing when you project something out, like going to the moon. They're wrong like 90% of the time. And they're just adjusting to be right. So that's all success is a bunch of failures.
Yes, exactly. I can relate. You just inspired me to speak to kind of the natural guides that are showing up when you talked about the guide rails. We just came out with our Adventure Quest newsletter this last week. Mm-hmm. Did you get one, Brad?
Did.
I think you should be. Okay. So signposts. We're calling it signposts, the newsletter. And it makes me think about how we listen in the natural world to the signs. And specifically, the simple one to think about is weather. When foul weather is coming, there are some signals and signs ahead of time, whether it's in the water or in the sky or in the air, or animals, their movement about guidance of what's happening here. So being attentive to the guidance is also part of this conversation today. It's not just that the information is coming our way, but we need to be open and attentive to it, vigilant, if you will. Can I continue? I feel like I'm on a little soapbox here. So one of the things I love about travel, and I think people can relate to this, is that and why we particularly want to play with this coaching model through a journey called Adventure Quest is that when we are traveling, we typically have a higher level of vigilance of our surroundings, of conversations with people, where are we going, what's next. So there's a heightened state of arousal, intellectually, mentally, spiritually, like what's next here, where are we going. And so we use this as kind of an activator for dropping into what's our inner quest while we're on an outer journey. What are the signs? What are the teachers that are showing up for us? Mm-hmm. Did that make sense?
It does. And you use the travel element of it. If you think about it, when you go to the airport, there's signs everywhere, and they're guiding you to get to the tarmac, get to the gate, right? And then when you get off the plane and you get on the shuttle, the driver's got to have all sorts of signs to guide him to the hotel or to the resort or wherever your destination is. So there's all that stuff that are outside of you. And if you're in a foreign space, like a quick example is I did a trip to Thailand. Normally, if you're into some place that has a foreign country, you can read the road signs and you can kind of maybe remember because it's using like English characters. But when you're in Thailand, the characters are bizarre. So you can't read the signs and get anything unless you know how to read Thai. So you need a guide to be able to interpret those signs so you can get to where you're going.
And that makes me think about our inner guide and how we develop in time and over practice, attuning to our own inner guidance of discerning, is this the right way? Is this the wrong way to go? Whether we're reading signs that we don't fully understand, we interpret it as best we can, or we're getting information from somebody else, we still have to decide what we're going to do with that information. And so we're looking for that inner guidance to mature over time within us. And this is an opportunity to keep practicing that muscle, using that muscle.
Yeah, there's stuff like that maybe you're not actually consciously seeing the signs, but you're feeling the signs. Like, God, it doesn't seem like it's humid, but that elbow joint's been acting up. I think it is humid. You might just have an intuition, I guess. Something doesn't feel right. Maybe I shouldn't go that direction.
Yeah. Well, you and I were recently at that networking event. Was it called something mornings? Creative Mornings.
Creative Mornings, yeah.
And Kate Jensen was speaking on the topic of ritual and routines. And it makes me think about the routine is where we build a routine as a structure for ourselves. As a scaffolding. It sets us up for success. That routine empowers us. But when we start to go asleep in the routine, we lose our vigilance, our wakefulness of the journey of where it's taking us. And that routine can get, let's say, calcified, or we kind of go asleep into it. And we lose the magic part that it first was in the beginning of a routine.
You mean you get comfortable with it, so it's not exciting anymore? It's kind of like, okay, we're going to do this again.
Yeah, let's use a spectrum between comfort and arousal. And comfort is just less and less arousal, more status quo of all the different systems, mental, emotional, spiritual, etc. Where arousal, all systems start to wake up a little more and sense what's next, as well as where are we going.
What came to me was I vacationed in Bali a couple of times, and you got destinations you're going to, so you take the same path all the time, and eventually it's kind of like, yeah, I've seen that restaurant, I've seen that place, so take a different route, and explore a little bit, and experience an adventure quest, and you might all of a sudden your arousal will kind of pick up, because you got to pay attention. How do I get to where I'm supposed to be going? Because this is all unfamiliar to me.
And again, the trips here are just about, the adventure quests are simply about activating that capacity in us, because every day we venture forth. And I go back to the years that I started reading Thoreau and Emerson, and I think it was Emerson I'm going to give him credit because I think it was he that talked about opening the front door to the day and venturing out into the day. So the day itself is an adventure quest.
Sure.
Each day that we, venture into it, but we can be as awake as we choose
Seeing we're
to the
talking
signs.
about that, let me do a little commercial for you. I got a graphic
All right.
up here because you're doing this thing in Portugal. So let me stick that up there. So if anybody wants to, you can do a screenshot of this or stop the video or rewind the video, and you can learn about John's Portugal trip, an adventure quest. And we've got it on a page called My Synergy Retreats. So you can go on to that. Where is it? Right there. That's how you can find out about it. And he's got a little banner on there you can learn all about. And there's even a place to opt in. So you can get on a list and learn more about other retreats coming up. Or adventure quests. Sorry, I used the wrong
adventure name. Quests, yes. Well, we've been talking about routines and falling asleep. I'll mention that, one of the folks I'm speaking to about this trip that has shown some interest has talked about wanting to find the vitality in themselves again. This is a business owner, super busy, the highs and lows of the year, staff, clients. And one of the things that this program can help do for them is revitalize themselves in their adventure, whether it's just being a human being that they are or an entrepreneur, in terms of where they headed, why they headed there, what's important to them now, and how do they integrate all that. So it's a change in themselves as a person, as well as a change in their professional commitments going forward.
I just made a little graphic here. I stuck it up. Is that spelled right?
Ooh, fancy.
That's spelled
I think
right?
so. Yeah, and here's this. I know where to go here, but part of why this the dance. I never saw dance in guidance until just now. So
well,
let's go here. We're gonna go here. Okay, so I've been telling people, like, how did I get into this? Well, I got into this because I didn't know what to do with my degree of psychology and dance some 25 years ago. And nobody knew what to do with me either. Like, nobody knew what to do with me. People still don't know what to do with me, but I know what to do with me today. So I'm really into experiential adventure education, not just in our heads. We're out doing something, we're applying. And so this idea of embodied movement integrates our new mental cognitions, our emotional emotional resiliency. So that's why I'm really excited about the trip aspect of the coaching process.
Well, that's kind of interesting. And then maybe this third step is this right here, guide dance.
Interesting. Yeah, I was in a class. This was when I learned what dance improv was. So I studied traditional dance. I was invited to a dance class. I celebrate. Her name was Amy Smith back then. She told her and her boyfriend and me to come to her class, and I said okay. And after a week, her boyfriend left, and I stayed. I was like, I can get credit and go to school for dance. It was modern dance, so I studied modern and ballet and jazz. And then I found folk dance and other things, but I didn't discover improv dance until I got to the cities. And it was really powerful to discover it in improv. And this is part of where my emergent leadership curricula comes from, is that we're listening to what's organically emerging out of us. There's no choreography set ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And so we just notice what is emerging, where is the energy moving, so that the dance unfolds organically. Conversations happen like that verbally, movement happens like that organically. And so that's part of how I integrate in my coaching practice, is what is a SMART goal, where is measurable in terms of specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound, but also the other half of that is an organic emergence of a goal that we are kind of following. And so we're guided, if you will,
sure,
by the energy.
It's a little more analog and less digital. How's that?
Whoa, nice job, Professor. Professor MagicBrad. It's both and. It's a both and world. Yep.
It really is. I mean, we got our logical thinking. You got to figure that all out. And like, I like the word synergy. And what is synergy?
Yes.
It's the sum is greater than the two parts, and 1 + 1 = 11. Mathematically, that doesn't make any sense, but it's still true because 1 and 1 is 11, right? Depends on how you look at it. It's not math. It's just that if you take a 1 and a 1, you have 11. Oh, okay. I'm getting a little off track here. Let's get back into guidance.
Yeah, and I also say what happens for me is like as you were saying that, I start hearing my inner conversation started picking up, and I got really quiet because it's like, wait a minute, now I have a new thought that's coming, and I'm like, oh, so this is connected to, we think we have a plan for today. We have an itinerary and an agenda, and then all of a sudden something else comes up and it would change our routine. It would change our plan. And part of our guidance system is how open are we to that? How open are we to an unplanned adventure that could actually get us closer to our goal?
You mean open to change?
But it's,
yeah, see, personally, I don't like change. I like my patterns and my routines because it's more efficient. And when change happens, it's like, oh, like rearranging the furniture. Now, where am I supposed to put my coffee cup? It was on the right side. Now it's on the left side. What am I going to do?
Yeah, so these structures, and I'm a recovering, let's say, structurist, like recovering planner. We set these up to empower ourselves when we have all these systems and structures. And if we're not open to that moment that we're guided somewhere else that could get us to where we want to go quicker, faster, with more, then we've held ourselves back.
Sure. And maybe a shortcut you're not thinking about because you're doing the same old thing.
Yep. And I do this, right? I do this. So,
well, it takes someone like having an external coach to help you see that kind of stuff, because oftentimes you get in your rut, and it's like remember that story of how Grandma, she used to cut the ends off the roast? Remember that story?
Okay. I think you said that recently. Yeah.
It was, and they wonder, why does Grandma cut the ends off of the roast? And then they finally asked her, and she said it's because it wouldn't fit in the pan. But everybody else thought it was part of the recipe.
Okay. I'm gonna circle back to your comment about hiring a coach, and there are two main triggers for hiring a coach, and they are speed. A coach helps you develop faster than if you were to do it on your own, and the second one is a model. The coach helps you design and create the model for where you're going, the path, the map. Because we can all do these things alone. We have a self-coach that we're developing in ourselves. When you hire or work with a coach outside yourself, you exponentially move that developmental process along.
Yeah, and it can be extreme.
It is. It's changed my life. Yep. I wasn't looking for it. I just kind of ran into a business coach, and there we go.
Like, I've had situations as a magician, a performing magician. People are looking for the people that are planning events so they can get booked on these gigs. Now, depending on where you want to get booked, do you want to work on weddings? Do you want to do fairs and festivals? Do you want to do corporate events? Do you want to do kids shows? So you got to know where your direction is going. And if you know that, you can quantum leap into that thing, because there's associations of event planners specific to certain things. Like a quick example of is there's this one guy who used to do trade shows, and he did it specifically for the health industry. He used to work trade show booths for the exhibitor, and he would attract attention to the booth. There's an association of healthcare companies that exhibit in shows. So he just joined that association, and now you've got his ideal client, hundreds of them. So a coach would be able to give someone that insight if they already know. Like, you work with multiple people, not just one person. So maybe all these things that you learned about all these other people and your previous businesses and stuff, you might be able to shed some light on someone that's just putting their hat in the ring?
Sometimes I have some experience that's helpful, and sometimes I don't have experience, and we draw on what we can with from that. Yeah, consulting is usually coming from a experienced place where you're sharing a map or a model to a client, whereas the coaching is you don't have to have previous experience. You are there with the person, journeying with them along the way, the conversation, or in this case, a trip. Yeah.
It's just that you're coming at it from a different point of view, where maybe you're not so stressed about something, a little more open to ideas and things. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So I think that's also part of our model here is I'm exceptionally comfortable on trips. I've been doing this since my 20s as a professional guide back then. So we're reviving that. But for me to kind of create the edge, we're going to do this internationally so that I have a little challenging part to it for me. New land, new landscapes, new languages, but inviting folks to kind of loosen up some of their routines, get out away from work, get away from home, and kind of reinvent themselves. And as we talk about it, each customer is going to have a unique quest that they're on, and they're going to have a unique guidance for that particular quest. So no curricula is the same. The coaching questions will be the similar, but each person needs are going to be different given what their goals are internally for the trip.
Also, some of the ways things are done are common, that if someone doesn't do it on an often basis, they like, where do I find medication if I need to? Well, you just call up a concierge at a hotel will be able to tell you that in a minute, right? Somebody might have that savvy because they travel a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we've gone for 26 minutes. This was a long one, John.
This happens. Once you and I get on here, we start rolling. And I told you before we started this, like, what do I have to plan for? I said, don't plan. I said, all right, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And I guess we have a lot to talk about.
Well, I think that's
good. Talk next.
What's that?
We're going to talk next week. We're going to talk next week about sponsorships. Is that right? So we decided we'd bring that in next week.
Well, we can bring it. That's a good idea. I can't quite see this threshold as the next topic, but
let's talk about thresholds next week.
That's the topic for the coaching journey or the hero's journey. But we do want to bring in that concept of the sponsorships in case someone's thinking about going on this and maybe they're a little bit tapped on the finances and they can only pay for like 3/4 of it. Maybe there's somebody that can sponsor the rest of it for you. So we're looking to fund your journey. Cool. Let me put you in the green room, John. Is there anything else you want to share before I?
Oh, thank you for asking. Yes, we have the Outpost coming up. This is the Entrepreneur's Outpost. You'll have to reach out to me or Brad. We'll get you signed up for the Entrepreneur's Outpost. This is a free drop-in for entrepreneurs. Third Thursdays of every month on Zoom. We just need to get you on the mailing list. You can go to this website here, fullspectrumcoachingandconsulting.com, and you will see up in the menu bar resources, and at the bottom of resources is the Outpost for free community entrepreneur coaching. And then lastly, we've got an open house. It's kind of a private open house because of gate access and door access. But if you're interested in an open house for the Adventure Quest, that'll be this coming Tuesday, September 10th in downtown Minneapolis. And reach out to us for more info. Thank you, Brad.
Perfecto. Well, thank you, John. I'm going to pop you into the green room and go ahead and enjoy some of those digital hors d'oeuvres. Okay. There you have it, my friend John Armstrong. Dun, dun, dun. Let me, we're doing a series of these full spectrum Fridays. So next Friday, we'll be doing another one on another topic. And the topics are on the hero's journey as we go forth. And don't forget, he does have his Portugal trip too. And I heard Norway might be in the works. Okay, that's it. Peace, love, and happiness. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice.